University, and I will be your moderator for this webinar lecture 5 entitled Flexible E-Learning Experience, which will be held from 11 a.m. to 12:30 p.m. The Computing Society of the Philippines, or CSP, in cooperation with the Department of Computer Science of the University of the Philippines, Diliman, would like to thank you for your participation in this lecture series, which we are hosting every Wednesday. This CSP webinar lecture series aims to provide talk that focus on how ICT can function as an enabler during this COVID-19 pandemic. There are many problems associated with this COVID-19 pandemic, and our goal is to be able to discuss how ICT can be harnessed to address and surmount the challenges associated with this pandemic. Specifically, the talk aims to discuss how ICT can provide solution to COVID-19 problems and how to transform teaching and learning using ICT at the time of the COVID-19 pandemic. Before we go to our lecture today, please be reminded of our webinar rules. All our participants could be able to post your question that you want to ask to our speaker. However, we would like to remind you of the following. The participants are encouraged to ask their questions by posting their question on the Q&A, which is available on the app. Please identify your name and your organization together with your question. We will only accept question until the end of the talk. The lecture now is our CSP webinar lecture 5. The topic for this morning is flexible e-learning experience. In this session, you will learn the evolution of the educational landscape during and after the pandemic. Calls into action a more inclusive and resilient learning and teaching. As the ubiquitous technology is now being sanctioned to deliver education, there is a need for continuous dialogues in the analysis, design, implementation, and evaluation of flexible e-learning systems. Our speaker for this webinar lecture 5 is the Dean of School of Education at National Teachers College, Dr. Ferdinand Blancaflor, Pitagan. But just a little background, SOTE has approximately 80 professors, more than 2,000 students in 6 programs in the undergraduate, and more than 1,400 students in 14 programs at the graduate studies. Dr. Pitagan is also consultant and specialist at UNESCO, leading the team of experts in the design of framework, strategy, training, and budget of the open educational resources. Universal Design for Learning Policy for Higher Educational Institution in the Philippines project. Friends, please welcome Dr. Ferdinand Pitagan.
Hi, everyone. Can you hear me? Ma'am Lani, can you hear me?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Yes,
okay.
Sir. Yes, sir.
Okay. Thank you very much. Good morning, everyone. On behalf of CSP and the UP Computer Science College, we would like to thank everyone for taking time to participate in our webinar for today. Let me share to you now my presentation. Okay, can you see my presentation now?
Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you very much. Before I proceed with my presentation, I would like to talk about the passions that I'm indulging in now. As Ma'am Lani has mentioned, I am the country consultant from the Open Educational Resource in Universal Design for Learning. As computer science specialist and teachers, I know that you are familiar with Open Educational Resource, but what the project is trying to add is that all these open free resources being the tenets of UDL, which is a Universal Design for Learning. Means to say that multimedia presentation or a PowerPoint presentation could also be used by students or learners with intellectual or physical disabilities to continue their learning. So merong braille component o merong closed captioning, etc., etc. So we had called upon 40 of our best TEIs in the country from Luzon, Visayas, and Mindanao, including UPOU Chancellor Bandilaria, Chancellor Liza of UP Visayas, etc., etc. And we are now in the process of coming up with a policy framework on how to do inclusive education for open educational resource. I think OER now is being harnessed by most of the governments, academic institutions, and organizations across the world in order to continue learning and teaching during this pandemic time. So according to our schedule, this program has been piloted in Manila. Last year, we went to Malaysia for the second leg, and supposedly we go to Africa for the next leg. And the training in the Philippines would commence with HEIs, but unfortunately, it was put to a halt due to COVID. So hopefully, in the next round of training and other activities, you can join us in promulgating OER. We have already a framework, a policy of OER espoused by CIMEO, by DepEd and CHED that still waiting, I think, for approval. So what we try to do is harness the power of that policy and put into the tenets of the universal design for learning. Also, Ma'am Lani has mentioned that I am also the Dean of the National Teachers College. Ayala Education has acquired NTC approximately around 2 years ago, and they have put around 550 million in physical and systematic renovation. I am now the Dean of the School of Teacher Education, which is through the graduate school. We are now the largest graduate school program in NCR. Amidst this pandemic, we continue our summer program. We just wrap up our summer session 1 when we could enroll 9 units of online courses. And we would have our second round this corresponding June. So learning never really stops at NTU amidst the pandemic, because everything that I'm going to discuss to you have been conceptualized and piloted in NTC. We are now also in the thought leadership of DepEd and in CHED on how to proceed with education amidst this crisis. Also in NTC, we have a very robust graduate teacher program in which we have promulgated the recognition of prior learning. It means to say that your experiences on the field would be recognized as academic units in the graduate program, even in the master's and in the doctoral degree. You could have a maximum of 18 units. So we have, a very shortened path to graduation. We are also offering short courses. We call it All In, which is lifelong and life-wide learning opportunities, which would run around 2 weeks. And all courses are in tune with the needs of the time, in flexible e-learning options, in home-based study, in guidance and wellness. And all these courses could be credited in your master's degree. If you have any questions, or if you're interested to join us at NTC, the emails and all information are given here in this particular slides. Thank you. And now I'm going to talk about flexible learning framework during and post-pandemic. I have revitalized the title to conceptualize what we are going to discourse for today. So hopefully, after this talk, you would have a greater understanding of what is flexible e-learning options. Okay, for our participants, would you kindly go to menti.com, please? Okay. Okay, can you see it now? I want you to go to menti.com and use the code 98, 49, and 48. Okay? And input ideas on ideas that come to mind upon hearing flexible learning framework during and post-pandemic. Please go to menti.com. I'm still waiting for my participants, please. You can use your, you could use your cell phones, your computers. Okay, so we have one participant. For you, flexible learning options are distance, self-paced, online, blended, okay? Free, convenient, asynchronous, modular, very good. Online, internet connection. Wow, distance learning, blended, multi-platform, module, webinar, accessible, connection, knowledge, anytime, self-paced, out of school. Wow. Zoom, webinars, flexibles. We have 48, 50, blended. So the larger the words, it means that those are the words that are mostly uttered by our participants. We have 64 participants now. Simplified, home-based, wow. Learning for all, anywhere. Out of school, correspondence, knowledge, wow. Very good. Accessible, distant. Okay, interactive, off campus, technology. Okay. Okay, let's stop at one. Asynchronous, synchronous, blended, multi-platform. Wow, very good. Varied. And our last one is modular. So for you, flexible learning framework during and post the pandemic are mostly online and blended, flexible and modular. Hopefully, all of these keywords and phrases we could factor in and give clarification during our discussion. Thank you very much for your participation. Okay, so in this discussion, we would try to examine the structures of learning in Philippine context, what learning was before and during the pandemic, and hopefully after the pandemic, we could come up with some flexible learning framework. Also, I want you to adopt an innovative mindset during this pandemic. I want you to be open to suggestions and to recommendations on how we could creatively design our courses, how we could innovatively and integratively assess our students, and at the same time, how we could guarantee safety and wellness of all. And also, I want you to gain a holistic understanding of what flexible e-learning framework would mean. Also, I want you to put on that critical hat on everything that we're going to do. In all my webinars, I would like to parrot a 1-hour class. So take this as a model, or at least as an example of how you would how are you going to deliver or design your 1-hour synchronous class. Okay. Okay. Ayan. Okay. So this is the school in the Philippines, right? So the school is the academic center. So from preschool up to graduate studies, this is mostly where we get our academic diplomas, academic credentials. So the Philippines is one of the many countries in the world who was put a very good investment into education. So I think we are number 2 in the allocation for budget by the government, and each family would have, from preschool to graduate studies, would go to a formal school like this. This is a vector of a K-12 school in the Philippines. So the school has always been the academic center where we would pursue our continued learning. Also, this is a social hub, right? The school is where probably we would meet our lifelong friends, maybe your husband and your wives during high school or even college. In a community, this is where most of the social gatherings, parties of or barangay, barangay report would commence inside the school. Also, the school is our cultural sphere. The school would be, the center and a reminder of the Week of the United Nations, Linggo ng Wika, pagdiriwang para sa mga kagitingan, etc., etc. And some other cultural reminders that a school would give to the community. It would be a satnakrusan, or it could be, a collaborative work of the barangay. And the school is also one of the economic focus, not only of the government, but the Filipino family. Most of the families would really work hard in order for them to send their children to school. So the school, as we know it, traditionally play a very crucial role in our essence as a nation, as a family, and as a Filipino. And the school, yeah, during the pre-war Philippine classroom, this is how it would look like. Diba? Yan. Sa palagay nyo, anong tinuturo nila? Ano kayang tinuturo nila sa eskwelahan na to? Ano kayang tinuturo nila sa eskwelahan na to? Ayan, you're right. It's music, no? So this is the Philippine classroom during pre-war Philippines. Okay, so the teacher is at the center of learning. Maybe this is our older school teaching music without probably no musical instrument. And this is the Philippine K-12 classroom. Ayan. Ano ba ang pagkakaiba nila? Ano ba sa palagay ang pagkakaiba nila? Sa palagay nyo? Oo. Ano sa palagay nyo ang pagkakaiba nila? Diba? Sabi nga nung iba, sir, yung picture naging colored. Diba? So, even though the government has putting a lot of effort into how education will evolve in the Philippine context, I think we have made tremendous progress in terms of encapsulating some good opportunities for our education, but our school remains the same. In 2018, there are 28 million students attending extremely crowded classrooms. And this is a good leap from the previous years, where there are classes of 100 per classrooms, and the classes are done under the tree. Diba? So at least now, we have around 30 to 40 or 50 inside the classroom, but still this is extremely crowded compared to international standards. Our teacher still is the center of learning, the sage on the stage. He or she would lead instruction confined in the four walls of the classroom on bell schedule. Kring math, kring science. She would give content assessment for all. And the teacher would usually have one approach that fits all with limited access to resources. According to Howard Gardner, we have multiple intelligence. Why is that so? That we are assessing our students similarly without taking into account how they learn. We have, say for example, most of us are visual learners. So have that particular knowledge been taken into account into how we design and how we assess our students? And of course, the attrition rate is also high, but this is good news compared to the previous years. So the attrition rate in elementary is 12%, 18% and in 12%, and in high school it's 18% in 2015. So this is the Philippine classroom of today, and this is the classroom of the future, the 21st century classroom, where the teacher is no longer the center of learning, where interaction now are computer and technology mediated, where students now interact with fellow students, technology mediated, with teacher, technology mediated. So integrating technology into our classroom with increased flexibility, convenience, and cost effectiveness. So when I was studying ComSci, ang mahal-mahal ng personal computer. But now, we could buy a cell phone which is more powerful than the previous computer that we've utilized at a very low price. And it would offer you access and flexibility and convenience to decide your learning at your most comfortable place at your most comfortable time. It also increases interaction, engagement, and a sense of community. Our learners of today, which are the millennials and Gen Z, would do collaboration in all aspects of their lives. They would do online gaming collaboratively. They would do chatting collaboratively, even dating collaboratively. And this technology gave them that sense of heightened interaction, engagement, and sense of community. And over time, there is an increased faculty and student satisfaction. The Philippines is one of the most engaged country in terms of technology. We send 2 billion texts per day. We are the 5th largest user of social media, particularly Facebook. If we could harness the time spent in this technology, in this platform, and put it into learning, that would be a good intervention. Maybe during the birthing period, you are now trying to migrate your traditional classes into an online platform. There are challenges, difficulties. It is all understandable, including frustration and stress. But over time, according to research, it increases faculty and student satisfaction. And of course, it increased the sense of learner-centeredness. The information available to me as a teacher is also available to our students. And because they are more tech savvy and media savvy than we do, they could peruse more content. Diba? You give them the power to decide what, why, how, when to learn because of this available technology. You give them the references, the resources, the learning experiences in your online learning platform. And it is up to the user to direct her individualized or self-directed learning time. And this is how technology has been harnessed in the 21st century classroom. And remember that we are in the 4th industrial revolution, where technology is now part and parcel of the essence of the human being. There is a ubiquitous connectivity. There is this maturation of cyber and physical technologies through artificial intelligence, 3D printing, robotics. 2 years, 3 years from now, data analysts. This is a job that does not exist, but now it is one of the most highest paid. 2 years, 3 years ago, the European Commission designed an artificial intelligence patterned after a Filipina child, put it in a pornography site, and they were able to catch 2,000 pedophiles, them without knowing that they are engaging not to an actual child, but to an artificial intelligence program. Could just imagine that. Are you sure that I am not AI? So we are now in the fourth industrial revolution. And taking into account that industry link with our education, remember that education in the Philippines is built around the concept that we are preparing them for the job of the future. And technology, even before COVID, has become a disruptor. Diba? Technology disrupts education in an unmanageable scale. And in the future of jobs, this is a research done by McKinsey. In 2016, around 90 billion hours worked in the United States are in physical, manual, and 53 billion would be in basic cognitive skills. That would change by 2030. It would decrease by 11%, by 14% for basic cognitive. And the increase of the demands of job would be for higher cognitive skills, social emotional skills, and technological skills, up to 60%. So these are empirical data that we need to consider when we design our flexible learning systems. These are the future of the jobs of our students in which we are designing the content, assessment, learning experiences of today. We have to factor in that this design should incorporate higher cognitive skills, social emotional skills, and of course, technological skills. These are termed now as essential skills. So this is how we weave the educational system in the Philippines. And then, lo and behold, something happened. We can no longer go to school. We can no longer interact, at least, face to face, not technology mediated, with our classmates. We are now home-based learning. We are now doing homeschooling. We are now working from home because of COVID, because of the pandemic. And it has affected every aspect of our existence, especially education. Okay? Okay. So I want you to go to bit.ly UNESCO COVID stat, please, and accomplish the puzzle. Okay? I want you to go to bit.ly UNESCO COVID stat and accomplish the puzzle. And let us know if you're finished with the puzzle. Okay? Let us know if you're finished with the puzzle. Okay? Are you finished? Okay. Wow. Lloyd is already finished. Our top one is Lloyd. Let's finish the puzzle. Not yet. Almost done. Maricel, you're here. Okay. Gerald is finished. That's very good. Very good. Who else? Finish the puzzle, please. Ang hirap daw. Madali lang yan. Okay. Finish. Nako, error 404. Pakitingnan yung, oh, why? Hala, nag-error yata yung puzzle. May underscore yan, ha? UNESCO underscore COVID underscore stat. Okay? Very good. So, sinong tapos na? Yes? Okay. Nako, Dave. Okay. Tapos na ba? Done na. Very good. Maria Luella Salenga. Tapos na daw si Ma'am Salenga. Okay, very good. So you would be directed to an online puzzle. And, ayan. So ganito yung itsura ng puzzle natin. Okay? So the COVID pandemic, according to UNESCO, has been affecting approximately around 1.3 billion learners across the world. Diba? In the Philippines alone, 28 million learners, 28.4 million learners are being affected. Around 177 countries around the world has totally shut down schools nationwide. So you just imagine the gravity of impact this pandemic has on our educational system, on our teachers, especially on our learners, as well as to our academic leaders. And each government of the 177 has put forth a rapid prototype technology-based solution on how they would continue learning and teaching during this pandemic. Most of them are distance learning solutions. Say, for example, in the Philippines, we have the DepEd Commons. The DepEd Commons is a repository of open educational resource in which our teachers could use to integrate into their lesson activities. Some of the countries has put forth the television and radio for mass media education. But most of them are doing distance learning. Kung napapansin nyo, they are using the word distance, not online. Diba? When we talk of distance learning, this could be online, this could be blended, this could be correspondence education, this could be in modular approach. So even experts in the Philippines are very, very cautious and conscious of promulgating an online learning platform across different levels of the education spectrum, given the context of the Philippines. Diba? Not everyone would have connections. Diba? That is why we need to design a flexible learning systems where everyone would be taken into account in order for them to continue their education regardless of levels and access. Okay? So number one, we have to look into that there are different types of learners in the Philippines. Diba? In terms of connectivity, those who do have, who do not have access to connectivity, without connectivity, they don't have technology. Maybe wala silang laptop, ang meron lang sila cellphone, wala talaga silang connection dahil wala silang pambili ng connection. O talaga nandun sila sa isang place na walang connection. And there are students who have very limited connectivity, di ba? Yung bibili lang ng data para magkaroon ng connectivity, or very limited yung technology. Maybe may isang laptop sa loob ng pamilya pero 4 silang learners, wala silang broadband access, etc. etc. And learners who have the full capacity. They have the technological equipment, they have their bandwidth, and they can participate in a fully online class. So when we design our flexible learning system, we have to take into account, especially those in K-12 and public schools, we have to take into account these different types of learners. Okay, so how do we design now? Okay. Ayan, okay. First, we have to design a holistic, inclusive approach to education. First and foremost, in our educational system, we have to put forth, wellness, health safeguards, diba? Social distancing inside the classroom. There should be provision for hand washing. There should be provision for alcohol. Maybe our teachers would be in, not naman in PPE, no? Pero parang in a protective gear. Our students would be in masks if we got. Now, if we go back inside the classroom, okay, then we have to subscribe to the policies of the national government, whether it be coming from DepEd or coming from the Department of Health. And we are promulgating the use of open educational resource so that it would foster inclusivity. The students would not need to pay a second-party provider for our resources, for our textbooks and references, because these are OER, okay? And of course, we have to involve all stakeholders, especially parents and caregivers, our teachers, especially our learners, and everyone else inside the education sector. So we have to have that holistic, inclusive approach in education, whether we would go back inside the classroom or continue with blended, a scheduled, inside the classroom and scheduled online learning, or a totally online classroom or other flexible needs. Okay, we have to take into account the different type of learners. Okay, we have to go back to our curriculum, whether it's HEI or K-12. In K-12 now, the DepEd is now reviewing the curriculum guides, and they are trying to map out what particular curriculum could be combined, what particular competencies could be subsumed to other competencies. Curriculum designers would, call this as power curriculum, or power competencies, where you combine several competencies. Si Mayo had a research on the number of competencies in the K-12. They found out that in math, mas marami yung number ng competencies kesa sa number ng days na ipapasok ng bata. Diba? Ang isang competency ba ay matatapos ng isang araw? I am part of the team who wrote the curriculum guide for media and information technology and also empowerment technology for senior high school. And I also think that there is a need really to look at again at our curriculum guide and review the core competencies. So we have to, you have to determine what are the key competencies, what are the power competencies, even in HEIs. Remember that each course in K-12 and even in HEIs would be, outputting into a performance standard. So everything, including learning experiences, including assessment, should be contributory to that outcome, to the final outcome of that course, may it be per quarter or per semester. So begin reviewing your programs and identifying what are the core competencies. And of course, we have to provide an essential learning experience. Traditionally, we are teaching for content, di ba? Parang our classes are driven by content, powered by learning objectives. But right now, what we need to provide are learning experiences vis-a-vis learning objective vis-a-vis content. We are not doing away with content. We just have to provide them with the maximum learning, essential learning experiences. Kasi we learn through experiences. Sige nga, isipin nyo nga anong content ang naaalala nyo ng high school at ng college. Do you still memorize the periodic table? Do you still remember how to do redox? Do you still know that postulate 1 determines 2 points determine a line or the phylums? Maybe some of us, but not all. But you would always remember are your experiences inside the classroom. Diba? How well your teacher did her teaching or skills that were accomplished during that learning experiences. So we focus on learning experiences to heighten learning, okay? And of course, we have to look at assessment differently, di ba? Sir, magche-check ba kami ng attendance every synchronous meeting? Ang answer ko, yes, but only for monitoring purposes. It would inform you whether the students are diligently attending the class. If not, follow up, maybe connection problem, resource problem. It would inform you baseline data on the next cycle of course design, the checking of but it should not factor in doon sa grading system. Katulad nung ginagawa natin face-to-face. 10% is attendance. Diba? Kasi it might disadvantage students who do not have access to sync sessions or who cannot attend online class, etc., etc. So we have to look at assessment differently. Sir, are we still going to conduct quizzes and tests? Yes, but these are for drill and practice, for skill-based learning. Diba? Hindi na siya graded. Kasi if you're going to factor into grading, there would be another host of concerns. Are you sure na sila ba ang gumawa? Hindi ba yung caregiver or yung parent doon sa bahay, etc., etc. While it's for its practice, the students, could have enjoyed unlimited access to that quiz and heightened his or her learning. Recitation and participation. Sir, do we still need to call the students? As you can see, I cannot call of you kasi medyo marami tayo. Pero there should be, this sense of interaction even in synchronous meeting. We could do participation and recitation through chats or through face-to-face online meeting. And yung ranking. So, kailangan ba may ranking pa? Ako kasi, I don't know, correct me if I'm wrong. Ayoko kasi nung top 10. Baka yung ranking yung all students, but not the top 10. Okay? So we have to look at assessment entirely in a different light. And it should be integrative in essence. Meaning, kasi nireview na natin yung mga competencies. We subsume, we combine, we identify the key competencies, thereby there could be subjects, there could be key competencies that can be combined across courses, thereby there could be integrative assessment. A project could be taken An accomplishment could be taken as an output in 2, 3, or 4 subjects. Maybe they don't have the same weight in other subjects, but at least they cut across as an integrative assessment. Okay? And this could be true across majors. Say in PE, if you ask them, say for example, to write their reflection on how are they going to continue or maintain wellness and healthiness amidst this pandemic, could be taken as a PE output as well as an English output for essay writing, etc., etc. In science and math, there are a lot of projects that could be combined, etc. So we have to really look into integrative assessment. And this is being espoused by the Commission on Higher Education as well as GEN, yung multidisciplinarity. Diba? Interdisciplinarity, intradisciplinarity of activities, including assessment across programs and subjects. Okay? Ayon. Given the context of the Philippines, given the different types of difficulties and challenges our learners would face, we have to design a differentiated learning delivery. Kung pwedeng mag-online, go. Kung distance, say for example, ng distance, modular, we need to print the modules and give it to them, go. Kung mass media, television and radio, go. Although, kung television yan, at saka television and radio, maybe we would need to solicit help from the national or local government. Kung offline, through application, through different apps that they could continue, go. If they can online in massive online or open courses, go. And everything should be all possible accommodation for different learning delivery mode should be given to our learners, given their current state of technology access for equipment and bandwidth. Okay. Sir, pwede din yung differentiated learning delivery or differentiated learning. How do we design the learners? Laging doon sa gitna so that we would have improvement for those who are master learners and for those who are novice learners. Baka ang taas ng design, hindi kaya noong mid-level at saka novice learners. Yung novice learners nyo, matalino nga siya, pero wala naman siyang access to technology. That's why there should be a differentiated learning delivery. Ayan. This is the hot topic now, self-regulated, home-based learning. Okay. Yung self-regulated home-based learning. So ngayon, nasa home-based, or we are working from home, our students would be in home-based learning. So there should be a parent or any caregiver that should be a co-teacher inside the home. Learning institutions, especially in K-12, would have to orient these parents and caregivers on how to do home-based learning, on how you could maximize home-based learning, on how you could put routine to our students inside the home and devote time for learning. Kami ang ginagawa namin in most of those who consult with us, we give 2 to 3 times per week in synchronous session of 50 minutes, just like in regular classroom, and we give them independent learning session. These are self-regulated session in which there is an outline of detailed direction on what they need to accomplish during that independent session, plus the corresponding references and the number of hours they have to devote. These are self-regulated because the students will decide on when to learn, how to learn, why to learn, but it is also time-bound. Kung kailan yung submission of the corresponding output. Kasi yung self-regulated learning, if you're in MOOC, you could submit anytime you want. Okay, but this time, this is self-regulated in time-bound. And of course, because all of this, we also need to involve the community. If we're doing home-based as well as online learning, the community meaning, the household would have to know that we're doing home-based learning so that there would be minimal disruption for our learners. Maybe if we're living in the compound, the older kuyas and ates and pinsans could be tutors. And if we could involve the LGU, some of the LGUs now are giving technology into education. Our good governor in Cavite is giving tablets for the teachers. I know there is an e-result project a couple of years ago. So some of the LGUs now are giving Wi-Fi access as hotspots. So maybe, we could go to the barangay or to the mayor to provide, some hotspots within the community. If they could provide surfaces for our students, it would be very, very good. So also in the barangay, maybe we could partner with the barangay council to identify online tutors within the community for our learners, for homeschooling and home-based learning. And because all of this, we're trying to reduce the coursework of our students. Before in K to 12, maybe 7 to 8 hours per day they are inside the school. But right now, do you think it is also a viable option that they would do online learning 7 hours per day? I don't think so. So we really have to make the conscious effort that flexible learning frameworks are a reduced coursework in order to provide less stress to our students and also to our teachers. During the birthing of an online course, it would be very, very tedious to our teachers. So they will really need to capacitate them for continuous training, continuous support of the school, etc., etc. Okay? Ayan. And of course, even during this pandemic or post-pandemic, we have to, continuously provide support for our students, for our parents, for our teachers, and for all stakeholders. There should be a guidance office, hotline, that our students, our parents could talk with. If they are feeling stressful, the library, an open library, should be, put online. We could have an open educational resource. UPOU has its own UPOU Commons. DepEd has its OER Commons. We have a lot of OER Commons across the world that our students and teachers could get resources from. Payment online should be made available so that our students would not, and teachers would find it easier to, do transactions with our academic institutions. So, hindi dapat mawala yung support system, especially yung for wellness guidance office. There are articles now that the next wave of pandemic would be that of stress and suicide. Nakakatakot yun, no? Because of what we're having right now, okay? And of course, there should be a continuous communication across different stakeholders. Across different stakeholders, maybe the PTA, the community, the student government, or the teacher association. There should be, a continuous open discussion with everyone else. Because right now, what we're putting forth are pilots on how we would proceed with learning and teaching. And of course, there would be challenges and difficulties. And of course, since we are rapidly prototyping our responses, there should be a continuous review. Ano na ba yung status ng learner natin? This could be done formatively or summatively. Wag naman summative kasi parang dulo na yon. But there should be a continuous status review of status of our learners as well as our teachers and our institutions. Institution being, are we able to provide support for our teachers or the bandwidth that they need Do we have a learning management system? If not, what would be the option? Have we provided a good firewall system to secure data and information? Have we provided them with other support that they would need, like technology, laptops, or what have you, in terms of the learners? Have we listened to them on difficulties on a scheduled sync session per day, or the independent learning, or too many outputs during the week per day, etc., etc. So we have to continuously review the status of our flexible learning options. Okay? Okay. Sige. Ayan. To summarize my discussion, I have prepared a video. I don't know lang kung maririnig mo. Are you hearing the music? Are you hearing the music? No. Okay, wait lang. Okay, how do we do? Okay, wait. Okay. Okay. So, okay, I'm now ready for some questions. You have questions?
Hi, Sir Ferdy.
Ay, teka, hindi ko marinig. I'll stop sharing first. Okay. Sige.
Hi, Sir
Questions?
Ferdy. Hello. Hi, Sir Ferdy.
Hi.
Hi. We have some questions from our participants. Let me read one question from Engineer Crisanto Natividad of the University of Southern Philippines Foundation. His question is, good morning, sir. Yes, as an educator, I believe we are prepared on how we can successfully put a flexible learning system. May I hear from you about your stand regarding the statement of President Duterte on putting on hold the opening of classes this school year, considering all these preparations on distance learning?
Nakakatakot yan. Kahapon yata yan, o isang araw, no, sinabi ni Presidente na wala mo nang learning pag wala pang, ano tawag doon, pag wala pang gamot. Pag wala pang vaccine. Right after that, kahapon, I was in a continuous meeting kasi nga parang biglang nagpanic yung some of the schools and even, some of the offices in DepEd and CHED na parang, wala nang learning. Pero binawi na yan naman kanina ni Secretary, sino yung press secretary niya? ni Press Secretary kanina. Sinong pangalan niya? Roque. Very good. Ni Press Secretary Roque, na ang ibig sabihin naman daw ni Presidente ay yung face-to-face learning. So may online learning pa. May online learning, wala lang yung face-to-face learning. Yun naman, okay? So diretso lang yung ating flexible learning options. Okay.
Okay.
Sige.
Sir, another question from Sir John Francis Olivo. Sir, what do you think is viable approach for teaching research? Since research is tedious both for the students and the teachers.
Oo. Naku, alam mo ba, this is now a hotbed for research. Diba? What is happening now is totally novel in terms of research lens. So we just have to be very creative and innovative on how we pursue research during this time. There are a lot of available technologies that we could use to harness data on the ground. At the same time, there are a lot of evolving research paper, studies, journals, portfolios, white papers on resilient education, flexible education, because everyone is trying to make sense of what is happening now. And that is the essence of research. If you're teaching research, you could do some, face-to-face guidance like this, like a sync session, and tell your students that this is a very opportune time to do their thesis and even their doctoral dissertation on the evolving pedagogy, assessment, analysis, design, implementation, the whole gamut of spectrum in research because of what is happening right now. So, let's be inspired by the situation, work with the ground. Yung data collection kasi, there are a lot of technologies that you could use. Even for FGD, for KII, you could do meta-analysis of evolving and emerging literature, etc., etc. Yes. Even your PhENO, could do PhENO research, your own lived experience as a teacher or as a leader during this pandemic time. That could be a very, very good research objectives. Yes.
Okay. Sir Ferdy, another question. From Sir Nico Aguila, a data science student in Asian Institute of Management. One of the main concerns are for the introverts of the educational landscape. Do you have ideas on how to detect the learning progress of those who do not interact much with people in and out of the classroom?
That's a very good question. No? Not only the introvert and the extrovert, but we have to take into account the multiple learning intelligences. Remember that our students are learning differently. Diba? Kayo nga, you see me, you hear my voice, but each of you are forming your own schema, your own learning, your own key takeaways from what we're doing right now. Feedback. There should be a constant feedback from the teacher to the students on how well and what they are doing for learning. That monitoring. If you're doing an online asynchronous discussion, the teacher should be actively involved in that forum, not just a lurker, diba? So that students, if there are some misconception, dapat kino-correct na yung ng teacher. The teacher is the facilitator, the instigator, and the moderator on the side. You would be surprised because there are research in online learning journals stating that those who are introvert in face-to-face classroom become emergent leaders in online learning environment. Sila yung tahimik, hindi nagpa-participate. Pero pagdating sa online, sila yung biglang magsasabi ng, ay ako nang magsasummarize ng project, ako nang magsasubmit key, sir. Ay, eto pa yung additional references. Diba? Remember that our learners are very tech savvy. They are very media savvy. We just have to design the learning environment in which they could participate in. I believe, yung more than the extrovert introvert is yung constant feedback from the teachers, yung monitoring, kung may sinabi kang output na hindi sinabmit ng estudyante. Dapat yung teacher would have the audacity to follow up, ginagawa naman natin to sa face-to-face di ba? Yun nga lang, ngayon, medyo online learning platforms na yung gagamitin. Okay? I hope that answers your question.
Sir, we have almost similar questions. We actually have lots of questions. But one common question is from Stephanie Palconit, Faculty of the University of Southeastern Philippines. Sir, what if there is the need to conduct laboratory activity? How would that be translated into a module or online class?
Yung laboratory-based, especially yung skills-based courses like bio or chemistry, physics. I was meeting with some European partners on the available laboratory that we could use in the Philippines. Ang kaso nga lang may bayad. Sabi ko nga, dapat gawin na nilang OER yon, di ba? Sabi na, first, kailangan lang namin ng funding para, we could operate for free. And of course, there's a business side to it. Pero there are simulations, interactive programs, mobile apps that you could use to simulate laboratory activities. Meron naman noon. All you need to do is really, search through the internet what are the available resources and how you could effectively and efficiently integrate it with your learning objectives. Pero meron namang available. Ang medyo kulang, alam nyo kung ano, yung early childhood education. Yun yung medyo nahihirapan kaming hanapan. Teka muna, ma'am, meron akong gustong saguting question. I hope that answered. Thank you. How do you humanize digital pedagogy? Very, very good, no? Eto, how do you find me as a speaker? Ano yan ha? Hypothetical question. Di ba kahit nandito ako, can you feel my humanity? Di ba? Can you feel my sincerity and honesty? Nakikita nyo ba yan? This may take a lot of practice, but teachers would have to transcend the screen. The teacher humanity would have to transcend the screen. Kailangan you would be as welcoming, providing a comfortable environment to your student, even in online learning. Diba? Hindi yung pagdating sa online learning, para na kayong newscaster na nagde-deliver ng content, na para kayong talking head. You're just a talking head. Ganon. So how do you humanize that? Stay human, even in delivering your sync meeting. Stay to what would the student would love about you. Be open, laugh, be comfortable, so that the student would feel the same. Okay? Sige, ma'am.
Okay. Sir, from Sir Gerald, a PhD student, Faculty of Education.